Hello, I'm Pekkarinen. I'm here with colleague 2 of my collaborative team as we have finished our planning and initiation of our plan of cooperative teaching. And now we're just going to take this time to kind of reflect back on it, reflect back on our group and the leadership and decisions that were made. So, colleague 2, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Great. So how do you feel about the overall dynamic of our collaborative team now that, we went through, the whole semester, or probably most of the year actually, planning it, choosing team members, initializing the plan, everything. How do you feel about our overall dynamic?
I think you chose and assembled a great collaborative team for the task we are completing. We were able to have 2 teachers who specialize in special education and being a paraprofessional, myself being one of them, who naturally fit in a co-teaching environment. We didn't have to change anyone's schedule around.
Keep going.
Because,
I'm listening.
because we already were in core classrooms. Because
you had a class within a class.
yeah, that's right. We had a class within a class. And that was very wise of you to consider us as being a part of the collaborative team, knowing that we weren't going to change anybody's schedule and make it complicated by having to switch around who was going to be in what class.
Yes, definitely. I think a key component of initializing anything that's going to be effective as a principal is to make sure you're not changing a whole lot of things around. I didn't want to create a collaborative team where we're like completely messing around with everyone's schedule and having people do like a ton of stuff that we're not used to. I think the smaller the change that I was able to create, the better it would overall work. So knowing that you and along with another colleague of ours had a lot of SPED background and that your schedule already had you in another class with a core teacher, I knew that would be a good opportunity to initialize having some co-teaching in there because you're already in these classrooms with these core teachers. Our other colleague was already in the classroom with the core teachers. So I knew right away that just the background you had with SPED and how it just aligned with your schedule, that you were in these classrooms, that would really foster co-teaching very well. So I knew that I needed you 2 to be a part of the collaborative team. Do you feel as though we had enough members on our collaborative team?
I think we had enough to be productive in our team. I think it would have been helpful if we would have had another member to have more different perspectives and points of view.
Yeah, I agree with you. There were 4 team members and then myself makes 5. So it wasn't a huge collaborative team. I think, like you said, we were able to be productive, but, we could have also, expanded and had more members as well. I guess having said that we could have had more members or, another member to have more perspective, specifically, like what responsibilities or, even like characteristics or even like you said, the word perspectives, do you think that extra member could have provided to our collaborative team?
I think it would have been nice to have another core teacher as a part of the collaborative team, like colleague 3.
Okay, I agree with you.
Since we had to eventually explain we'll have to explain to the other core teachers how we were going to co-teach with them once we were initializing the plan. It would have been helpful to have them already on the same page as us from the beginning. So the more co-teachers or the more core teachers we had, the more people who would be used to co-teaching.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, looking back when I was assembling the team, I think it would have been better to throw another core teacher in there so it wasn't just, colleague 3 who was the only core teacher in there, but instead we could have had another one in there. That way we could have it would have been a smoother transition to, not just coming up with the research and the data and the planning, but a really smooth transition to initializing the co-teacher because they'd be there with us at the same page as us the whole time. So how do you feel like I did as far as communication throughout this whole experience?
I think you did a great job communicating to the other team throughout the whole process. You decided to have us create a Google Doc, and that was really helpful because since we are all super busy, it prevents us from having to meet up together every time we have an idea, because we can just put it in the Google Doc and be able to communicate together on our own time. And I never once felt as though I didn't know what was going on, because we were always communicating through that Google Doc.
Yeah, I know that's one thing with teachers. You know, we all have different schedules. You know, some might be coaching or sponsors for this club or having IEP meetings, as you probably had. You know, it wouldn't be easy for us all to meet up. We all had different planning times. So I thought, you know, we're gonna have times where we meet up in person, but there's gonna be a lot of times when we can't do that. You know, we just flat out. So I knew that just by creating the Google Doc, we'd be able to, you know, communicate to each other on our own time and just constantly be on the same page. Do you feel as though you personally, but you know, along with the collaborative group as a whole, grew professionally?
I definitely feel like we all learned a lot about co-teaching, and I personally learned a lot about all the different structures of co-teaching, and I didn't know that there was several different ways that you could co-teach.
Yes, I know that's one of the roles that you had, was looking, you know, into all the different structures of co-teaching as part of our planning process. So I'm glad that you felt that you learned a lot about it. How do you feel I did as far as letting the collaborative team members have their own roles and responsibilities, kind of on that note?
I think you did a great job. Our first meeting, we decided on what roles we would have, and I feel like we really all took ownership and responsibility for our own roles, because we didn't feel like you were micromanaging us. We had already decided what responsibilities we felt we had the talents to take over.
Yes. You know, I think it's important for me as an educational leader to always understand that, you know, I'm working with professionals. You know, you're a professional. You can be trusted. I don't need to always be looking over your shoulder. I can delegate tasks. And I think that's a sign of an educational leader, is, you know, being able to properly delegate and trust that, you know, my members are well trained and that they'll be able to get it done.
In fact, I think you could have given us even more responsibilities. I felt that I was well educated on co-teaching structures, and I could have been assigned to teach and train other core teachers on my own before we even started the initial plan.
Yeah, I think